special welcome. Two quick announcements before we start. There's no fire alarm fire rehearsal planned for tonight. So if the fire alarm goes off, which it probably won't, we don't know, please take it seriously, make your way downstairs and we'll all gather in the car park. Second announcement is if you need the toilets, you don't know where it is, just on your right through those doors behind us. On your right. So we've got 4 people registered to speak tonight in our public participation. That's hopefully you come. And is Heather Hall here? Come. To speak to us about Glastonbury Cricket Club. I'll just remind you before we speak, we've got a very full agenda tonight. We've got 25 items on our agenda. Please have pity on us. All our speeches, all of us, is limited to 2 minutes. Please stick to 2 minutes. And in public participation, we don't follow the votes. We just listen to you, take you on board, and deal with it. You know, it doesn't take the right place at the right time. Anyway.
Thank you. Good evening, Your Worship, councillors, ladies and gentlemen. I'm speaking now, I'm chair at Glastonbury Cricket Club at the board. So I just wanted to give a little bit of feedback to the Town Council about our season. So hopefully no serious actions, just to say that we've had a good season. We've had 6 junior cricket teams, under 10s right up to under 14s, and they've all done really well and just had some fantastic matches in cricket. I don't know if anybody's been down there, but there's been loads of junior cricket going on. We've also had some under 9s and then even down to 5 to 8-year-olds. So it's been a really successful participatory season. So we're very pleased with that. And they've all been so enthusiastic and very keen. And also this year, for the first time, we've had an all-girls cricket team. So that's a real achievement. There's a lot of energy going into women and girls cricket now. And it's so great that we've been able to have a girls cricket team, and we plan to carry on that next year. We've always had girls playing in boys' teams, but to have an all-girls team is a whole different dynamic. The adults have had quite a tricky season. They've played their games. Unfortunately, they've been relegated, but that's fine. That's how you learn. We have had an exciting event at the end where we had a dads and no mums, unfortunately, dads and lads and daughters and sons cricket match. So we'd like to really do that next year to try and integrate the seniors with the juniors. And for us, that's a really important way forward to grow the club. It's fine having juniors and adults, but you need that transition through. And we've had some under 14s playing in our adult teams, and that's the start of that. So we're really pleased with how it's gone. It's been quite challenging with all the works going on at your leisure. I think there's been a couple of parking fines, but not too many. And we're very much looking forward to having a refurbished building next year. It's going to make a massive difference to us, and it's really something that's going to be very positive. And on that note, looking forward to next year, I just wanted to let the council know that we are applying for an exterior defibrillator to put on the outside of the pavilion. This is something that is British Heart Foundation funded. They have an agreement with the community, so we're in the process of applying for that. That will be on the pavilion, but it will be available, obviously, to the whole community. It's something that we felt for a long time is important to have down there. You know, there's defibrillators up here, but to have one down on the field is really important. We should be getting that ready for installation probably end of this year, beginning of next year, but it will certainly be available for us next year and for the whole community. So pass the word around, because obviously people need to know that it's there. We'll be doing a whole campaign to let people know. So that's really good news. That's really all I wanted to say. And I know the Town Council has always been very supportive, so we very much appreciate that going forward. Thank you.
Plus, on child protection, I believe. Just mention, I don't know what you want to talk about, but it's not appropriate to mention any specific cases. If you want to do that, please raise it privately.
Sure. No, it's more general environment. Hey? There's a microphone. Yeah, because I want to address everyone equally, so mobile. Can everyone hear me if I just project my voice?
Yes.
Because that's too much tech. So we're in a time now in this country where children are, God help me to speak clearly about this, being medically, pharmacologically and physically mutilated. And there is a culture that has been created around this subject that any challenging of this current trend, shall we call it, what do we call it? Ideology. We can just point at what's happening. This is such a serious situation. This is so very serious. Our children are being groomed in the schools now by an agenda that purports to be about diversity, equality, acceptance. It's nothing but a satanic run on our children. And I hear that the Archbishop of Canterbury is just being pulled up for covering up a paedophile. Well, this isn't news, is it? This has been going on since the beginning for a very long time, and I mean the beginning of humankind. So what I want to do here is address in this public forum the fact that there is censorship, heavy censorship, around anyone protesting this when it's being brought in through the schools, through this new sex education program that is going to teach 4-year-olds to masturbate, that's already implemented in many schools apparently around this country, where children who say there are only 2 genders are being bullied by the teacher. And all of this you can see if you go looking on the internet, and more. Child organ harvesting. I've seen a lot of things online because it bothers me that this is going on and the culture of silence seems to prevail. So I'm saying I'm going to do everything I can to do my part to create a haven for children who are caught up in this, and to create in some way the atmosphere for anyone who is caught up in this perversion, which I consider all pornography to be a perversion. It's not just normal for me, I know it is for most people. If you need to fantasize about other people's love life, people, when you're with your beloved, there's a problem now about your presence. And I fought this demon. I chose celibacy. So please, please, please look at this topic. Look into your hearts. What are we going to allow our schools to teach our children? Because I think we're on the edges of it somehow here at the moment. But what really is being brought in on this agenda, because when I question the drag queen story hour, because if these men happen to have an interest in reading books to children, why do they have to do it in a persona that is a sexual act that happened in nightclubs. It's not right. It's just not okay. And I'll leave out the right and wrong. I'll just say good and not so good. So we need a mechanism for the people who are caught up in the pornography, the paedophilia, whatever. Jimmy Savile, how does the drummer of the Clash know that man was a rampant paedophile when nobody else did? Have I had my 3 minutes? Thank you. So I just say we need the mechanism for people, adults caught up in this, to come forward and find help, because they need help so that those children can be freed. And it's all still going on. Everything that was happening with Jimmy Savile is all still going on. So let us please wake up to this horror and not allow it to continue under our watch or in our schools. Please. Thank you.
Thank you, Fiona. So we've got Amanda Casillas to speak to us about the World Heritage status.
Good evening, Mayor, Assembled Council, and members of the public. Thanks for this opportunity to speak about the proposal of the World Heritage status for the Glastonbury Abbey and Hall. I understand in December 2023, two UNESCO WHS consultants were hired to start scoping to assess the feasibility of Glastonbury as a World Heritage Site. According to the town clerk, 10,553 has been spent to date on this exercise. And in June 2024, a neighbourhood plan, which some of you may have received through the post, survey was distributed to some of the BA6 households, with only one question pertaining to the WHS. A statistician has since analysed the survey and the data and found it to be unreliable, with only 6.4% response rate received. There's been a lot of concern by the public. I've been out on the streets talking to people. People are really concerned about the accountability. There was no impact assessment done, and also the transparency. Many of the people that I've spoken to, both on the streets and online, are very, very against this move. There's a fear of the negative impact that WHS would bring, such as over-tourism, commercialisation of the high street, increase in taxes for residential lessons and businesses, some loss of autonomy, more coaches, footfall and car parks, more visitor centres and hotels. And what about residential parking for locals? We're likely to see an increase in chain shops and cafes. And if we look at other towns that have received the WHS status, we don't see that it has impacted the locals favourably. Many feel naturally shocked, upset and angry that their taxpayers' money has been spent already on a scheme that they don't agree to. In response to this outrage, I started a petition both online and offline, which has nearly received 800 signatures to date. And I've got a lot of support from locals. I'm out every Tuesday out in the market cross, so if you ever want to come and talk to me about it. Many feel that their fears have not been addressed. Somerset Live published an article on the 3rd of November about this, and it also drew attention to our concerns. So also there's been publications in Oracle as well expressing fears of what this will bring. The negative impact of the World Heritage status can be seen worldwide. So for instance, I had someone come to me who moved back here from Ballycastle, which is near Giant's Causeway, which is completely overrun with tourist coaches. I heard on the radio this week in Pompeii, they've got 36,000 visitors per day. They've had to halve that and bring in lots of restrictions in the town. Also, there's the erosion and the footfall of our sacred sites, which we all love incredibly, and which may lead to increased intervention. So the general consensus from most of the people I've spoken to, they're very happy with how the National Trust is running the Abbey, and many feel that the money could be spent better, running the tour and the Abbey Trust running the Abbey, but many feel the money could be better spent tackling immediate issues such as homelessness and food poverty. Some of us work at for the food fridge, and after several meetings that I've called, there were 16 of us, there were 3 councillors there, and then the second meeting there were 40 people and 4 councillors. The overall consensus is definitely against this proposal for Glastonbury to be inscribed on World Heritage status. We'd like an impact assessment, a reliable and extensive survey to reflect the public attitude towards UNESCO World Heritage status. A public consultation clearly needs to be called, and a People's Assembly has also been suggested. We demand more collaboration and communication, which is also set out in your aims from the council, and also access to the consultants. Our voices need to be heard and taken into account. Thank you to all present. May all these concerns that I've expressed on behalf of many people, many residents, be looked at seriously and acted upon. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amanda. All good things. Yes. We've got one more speaker. I think on the same subject. Tom Lewis.
Sorry to be harping on. To be a bit controversial, I think the idea of us being a World Heritage Site is a lovely idea. I've lived here on and off for 50 years, and over that time we've seen more and more people coming, and we have a very busy high street. We have lots of tourists and pilgrims and all sorts of people, the weird, the wonderful and the wacky come to Glastonbury. And I think it's fantastic, and the tourism and the pilgrims are a really, really positive thing for Glastonbury. My concern is that if we have World Heritage status, that we could suddenly, it's like having a glass of wine every day. People say it's really quite healthy, but if we have 5 bottles every day, it's not going to be so healthy. And we could end up with coaches upon coaches of people turning up. We could be opening a genie out of the bottle that we can't put back in the bottle. And at the moment we have all sorts of weirdos coming to Glastonbury. A lot of us are weirdos, I include myself in that. But I think we have to be really careful of cleaning Glastonbury up and making it mainstream, because weirdo people, a tiny little minority of people, and they're all flocking to Glastonbury, which is wonderful. But if we then add another 99% of less strange people, there's nothing wrong with any of it, but it's like, we could be in a nightmare situation, and I don't see the benefits of this idea, which I don't have anything against in principle, but the benefits, if we were a failing town and we were like completely a ghost town and there was nothing happening, we had boarded up buildings, it might be a wonderful idea. It might really revitalise this town. But we are one of the most vital towns. We are an amazingly vibrant town with all sorts going on. And so I think I would beg you, please, to drop the idea. It's like having invested something into it. It's like, yeah, great idea, but sometimes it's best to cut the losses and ditch something, because it could be an absolute disaster. And once these places, if you live in Venice, it's like, even if you stop all publicity, people are still going to be flocking to Venice or Rome or Paris, but these are often bigger places. We're actually a small place. And on that line, I would beg that we please be very careful not to Disneyfy Glastonbury. We've already got, I was predicting when we might end up with boards with coloured pictures all over. We've already got that. We've got planters with tag, the Glastonbury tag on. It's like we don't need to market Glastonbury. It's marketing itself. It really is. And it is wonderful, when I was a kid here, it was like, there were tourists. We had lots of Japanese tourists and it seemed to me American tourists. Now we have very different tourists, but we have far more now. We have a lot of people, and that's a really positive thing for Glastonbury. But just a word of caution, we could be opening floodgates, and what would we do then? No, that's all done.
Thank you very much. So,
What on the YouTube?
Yes, so I'd like to open the meeting now by inviting Fiona, who's still here, to come and light a unity candle for us. We have the unity candle here, and if you'd like, if you're willing, come and light it for us. We'll have a silent minute, and then we will start the meeting.
There should be a little thing there. Yeah. So just a minute, silence, and we'll start our meeting. Thank you. So thank you, everyone. Thank you. And yeah, special thank you to members of the public who've come and who spoke. We really appreciate just hearing from you. So I'm going to go on apologies, but I think we're full house tonight. All 16 of us are here.
Have your worship had apologies from Somerset Councillor Hart? She's unfortunately unwell.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. Declarations of interest. Do we have any fresh declarations of interest not already recorded? Councillor Napper.
Yes, your worship. Street Parish Council.
No, we know about that.
I'm a member of Street Parish. Thank you.
Just new ones. Just new ones. I've become a director of the Pilgrim Reception Centre, which has space in the small hall, so I should record that.
What's its legal name, your worship?
The Glastonbury Centre. Any other declarations of interest? So approving and signing the minutes of the last meeting. I've actually got two in front of me, September and October.
Yes, there are, your worship, because if you remember at the last meeting, the September minutes were deferred and the projector has unhelpfully switched itself off rather than just frozen. So give me a second till I get that back to life. The only change to the September minutes was the inclusion of the question on page, I want to say 36, but let me find it a second. 37. It was 37, yes. From Councillor Osborne. And I sent back my addition to Councillor Osborne, and she considered that that's what was correct. So it's just going to come up on the screen in a second. It's that highlighted paragraph is the addition, your worship. So everything else has stayed the same.
So with that addition, we've already approved the rest of it. Are we happy with the September minutes?
Aye.
Aye.
Do I?
No, you don't.
No, I was.
I will suffice?
Aye.
Okay.
Aye.
So moving on to the minutes of October, 8th of October, page 39.
These were circulated in advance, Your Worship, and I took note of one of the comments and made the change. So the version that's in the folder is the correct version.
Councillor Napper?
Thank you, Your Worship. You have me down as absent, but I did give my apologies because I knew I was not going to be here previous month. So if you could correct that, please.
It can be corrected on the paper copy when you give it back to me, Your Worship.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll do that. Okay. Any other corrections on page 39? 39, page 40. Page 41. That's the Planning Committee. Page 42. And 43.
Robbie,
Oh, sorry.
one very slight change in 43. It's 126. It's merely a spelling mistake, and that it's bridesmound without the extra I.
It's not bridey, it's bride.
It's not bridey, it's bride.
Fair enough. I'll correct that on the paper copy in front of you, Your Worship.
Excellent. I'm sorry I didn't mention it earlier because I know you ask if we do, but I only noticed it when I was going through again.
Okay, page 43, and that is the last page, actually. Oh, sorry, Councillor Osborne.
I'm really sorry to be a pain. I missed it going through. I've had a correspondence with Connor about Councillor Lation from Somerset. Has she been put on?
I added in attendance the Deputy Leader of Somerset Council. And I know that there was then a comment about that today, which I went back with a reply, so.
Yeah, sorry, it's not on my paper copy.
Sorry, no, I made the change after you raised it, but you'd already received a printed copy.
Councillor Cottle?
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I'd just like to mention that I've spotted. I believe Councillor Lation was here in a personal capacity, not as a council representative on that particular evening. So I don't think that her name needed to be included.
I do take your point, Councillor Cottle, but councillors can't actually take their councillor hat off. So, for instance, you couldn't register to speak as a member of the public this evening. You can't take your councillor hat off. So whether Liz was here in a personal capacity or not, as the Deputy Leader of Somerset Council was here, and that person did contribute to the meeting. Now, I haven't named them. I put their role there, and I've made no further comment in the minutes. But in terms of an accurate set of minutes, the Deputy Leader of Somerset Council was here.
Yep.
Okay, Connor, I'll go with that.
Are we happy to approve the minutes of 8th of October?
Aye.
I will twice. Thank you very much. Great. So moving on. Oh, an update of actions from the last meeting.
Thank you, Your Worship. I've not yet arranged councillor visits around St Dunstan's house. Councillor White has managed to have a look around after a progress meeting with our design team, but it is quite difficult making the site available for a number of people to walk around. So I am in discussions with the project manager. I have recently done a video with Gabriel Avalon. It was a lovely video, and he picked a horrendous thumbnail for it. I looked absolutely hideous in that thumbnail. However, it is quite an informative video that's had good feedback. So do please watch the video, because that's a walk round of the building. I've recently taken some pictures. I haven't yet put them on the shared system, but I will share them with councillors, and I will do another public update, but I will still organise those visits. It's just a case of finding a time that doesn't interrupt the programme.
Yep.
I did write to Councillor Lation and I believe Lynn Sedgemore as chair of the Town Deal Board, requesting that the audit into the Life Factory project be made public, and that was then passed on by Councillor Lation to the relevant people in Somerset Council, and they appreciated that we, although Councillor Lation was here, that we formally wrote in that way. And the minutes of the September meeting were changed for this meeting, Your Worship. So that's an update on the actions that were raised at the last meeting.
Thank you. So we're ready, I think, to welcome.
LB.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Oh, sorry. Don Francesco.
Your Worship, would it be okay, bearing in mind from all the questions that were from the last council meeting, I have some replies, if that's okay. I'll be very brief. These are from speakers that were in the October full council. So
Okay.
obviously I have to declare an interest. I'm chair of the Red Brick Building. So
these count as updates on actions following the meeting?
Exactly,
okay.
And also questions from around the table and questions that have been posed and made public.
Okay.
So first I would like to share a statement on behalf of the Red Brick management team. Recently there have been several reports from Nub News and Somerset Live regarding the Town Deal project at the Red Brick Building. Unfortunately, much of this information appears to be based on hearsay and selective perspective, resulting in a narrative that does not accurately or fairly reflects the reality of the situation. Therefore, on behalf of the Red Brick management team, we would like to clarify some of these misunderstandings and provide a more accurate picture of current developments. So a primary point of focus appears to involve the distinction between the Life Factory and the Town Deal project and the Red Brick Building itself. To clarify, the Life Factory construction project is an independent initiative that, while now overseen by the Red Brick Building's Board of Directors, operates with its own management structure and separate funding, distinct from the Red Brick Building Community Centre. As a small but dedicated team, our focus remains on providing a welcoming and supportive space for an entire community. Once the audit for the Life Factory, which has always been intended to make public, is complete and an action plan established, the Board of Directors will release an updated statement and ensure transparency like it always has. Next, I would like to address several questions and statements raised during the October full council meeting. Firstly, it's incorrect to state that the Life Factory has run out of money. In response to recent financial challenges, specifically rising building material costs and an unsuccessful attempt to secure match funding, the Red Brick Board made the decision to temporarily pause all the work of the Life Factory whilst conducting its own internal financial audit. Additionally, Somerset Council, exercising due diligence with government funds, called for an external audit, and this is what's taken longer than initially expected. Although the audit is near completion, final discussions are scheduled for December Somerset Council meeting, which I think is about 3 months overdue. Until then, we are unable to proceed further, and it is also out of Somerset Council's hands. In the meantime, the Red Brick has provided interim funding for over £90,000 to cover payments to immediate contractors working on the Life Factory, including the apprentices and staff. We too are awaiting reimbursement for those funds, and it is impacting on current operations. Regarding Mr. Middleton, an unpaid subcontractor who addressed the full council, we regret that we could not offer him an interim payment. As Mr. Middleton did not have a suitable contract in place, we could not ensure reimbursement of the Town Deal Fund at that time. We are working on all the contracts. Similarly, in respect to R4, the scaffolding company that raised concerns at the last meeting, we have paid them £224,000 over the past 6 months, with an outstanding balance of approximately 30 to 50 remaining. It's in contention at the moment. We have provided all contractors, including R4, with 3 written updates, and there have been numerous telephone communications in R4's case. The board are genuinely disheartened that we have not been able to settle all payments promptly for work on the Life Factory. Please rest assured, however, that we are working diligently, even under challenging conditions, to ensure that all contractors are paid in full. Rumours and accusations only hinder these efforts, especially for those awaiting payments. I personally object to how the Life Factory is being used for political slurs and respectfully urge everyone, including council members, to support community projects instead of undermining them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's a shame the audit report's delayed, but it's out of our hands, as you said.
Absolutely. And just to say, copies of those are going to go to R4 and to everyone who spoke, including and Somerset Council, and anyone here can get a copy of that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. So what I'd like to do now is welcome PC Higgins to address us. We haven't had a policeman to our full council meeting for a while, so it's great that you've come. And I think we'll have to keep it fairly brief, but please say what you want to say, and there might be a little bit of questions. Thank you.
What's wrong with you? It's my back. Hi, I'm PC James Higgins. I'm one of your two Glastonbury beat managers, along with Stacey, who's working tonight. We're just trying to come to a few more council meetings because obviously there's been a lack of presence in previous history. So when we're working, we'll be trying to attend if we can. So I think I've booked in for this one and the next one, and I haven't looked further ahead. We've just come out of the summer. Unfortunately, the police put us into a summer demand project whereby all beat managers were seconded to response, answering 999 calls for the entirety of the summer, which felt like it ran long past the summer. We're back now, so we're no longer away with that demand, so you should be seeing an increased presence of myself and Stacey back in the town centre. Unfortunately, my counterpart in street is leaving us in December, leaving another vacancy. So there'll be one vacancy as a beat manager for Glastonbury and one vacancy as a beat manager for street, with Hannah being the only beat manager in street. So myself and Stacey will probably have to pick up the slack of her. PCSO wise, we're down to just two, Nick and Mel, who I'm sure you've all met before. I spoke with the Chief Constable last month, and I did challenge her on the lack of recruitment of PCSO across Avon and Somerset, and she stated that she was looking at recruitment for PCSOs in December prior to Christmas. So hopefully we should be starting to see some new PCSOs coming online next year. And they are opening beat manager recruitment next month. So hopefully we should see some more beat managers. I wasn't going to talk about crime statistics because I think Connor provides a copy of that. I didn't prepare a massive speech either, so any questions?
Quite a few questions. Should we just go around the table as necessary? Councillor Smythe.
Could we be rest assured that there'll be adequate police presence at the carnival and at the Frost Fair, bearing in mind what you've just said?
Yeah, so at the carnival, all of the local team will be in. I've seen the op order, there's no gaps in the operational order. I think there's some beat managers coming over from Taunton and some beat managers coming over from across the other side as well, Shepton. So there's no gaps in the operational order for that. I've raised the Frost Fair with supervisors, and I think in the morning they're providing staff from Yeovil to come over, and then in the afternoon it's the Glastonbury meeting.
Councillor Dunn.
Sorry, did I hear you said we're getting more PCSOs?
Yeah.
Hopefully in December prior to Christmas, according to the Chief Constable. There's been a recruitment freeze. However, I think due to the lower levels of PCSOs, there's a lot of vacancies across the whole of Avon and Somerset. So where that first course, two courses will go once they've opened recruitment, I couldn't say.
So there is a recruitment for having them.
There is a planned one, according to the Chief Constable, prior to Christmas.
Councillor Napper.
Is that a firearm you're carrying?
Yes, it's a taser. So
a taser.
Avon and Somerset's policy is that they're looking at trying to get 50% of police officers to carry taser roughly. I'm one of the ones that do carry taser. Lucky enough to get funding at the street police station to carry them on the street.
Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, James. Yeah, we had a meeting with Rachel Clark, Inspector Clark, the other day, and she did confirm there'd be plenty of police in for the Frost Fair and the carnival. I know it's not your fault, James, but obviously when you're seconded out during the summer, to respond to 999 calls. That is exactly the time of year that we need more policing in town, and obviously it's good to see you back, but now is the time when it's a little quieter. So I'm sure I don't have to tell you that really we need to have a bit more support in the summer.
Please raise that. I was above my
Okay.
Councillor Cottle.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I have one question, which I'm surprised somebody else hasn't picked up, actually. With the government bringing in this rule that you're going to have to attend, the police are going to have to attend all shoplifting events, even under the £200 or £250, what they were doing. Are you going to be able to have the capabilities to carry this out? Because I know that our shopkeepers in Glastonbury have struggled with shoplifting over this summer, and it continues, actually. So I'm just wondering whether we will be able to see some kind of extra turning up for these sort of things, as the government have been preaching. Thank you.
So at the moment, I'm not aware of any policy changes in shop thefts that have been fed down to me locally. As for national policies, I wouldn't be able to comment.
Okay.
Higher up if there's changes afoot.
Thanks, James. Can I assume that we now have an inspector who might be remaining for a little while?
Rachel's brilliant. Rachel's born and bred this area. She was a police officer in Frome. She's then been promoted to sergeant in Frome, and then unfortunately she was posted away. I think her passion is this area as a whole, so I'd like to think so.
Okay, thank you.
Councillor Mudge.
Quickly, thank you, Worship. Can you tell me if there have been any convictions for littering in the town in recent times?
Not that I'm aware of. It's not something that I'm aware of.
Citizens arrest.
Citizens arrest. Any other questions for James?
Quite likely.
Thank you.
I will be at the next town council meeting, so it is part of my shift pattern to be at the next one. I will be there. Connor's got my email address. Me and Connor are in quite regular contact, so if anybody's got any questions in the meantime, let Connor know and he can ask them to me.
Thanks, James.
Thank you for coming. Thank you. So a couple of financial things is hopefully we've looked at this in advance and maybe sent any questions in advance. First of all, it's a schedule of payments, November 2024. Very small print, I'm afraid. Are there any fresh questions under this? Councillor Wayne Deal?
Yes, I did actually raise this with Connor, but I just needed to double check. The very last one for, oh, I haven't got my glasses on, there. The South West Heritage Trust, do you remember we gave them a grant?
Oh, yes, yeah.
Now, my memory is that we gave them a grant of 4,000, because somebody mentioned if it was 10% of what they were asking for. So I've still got that in my head. Checking it with Connor, he said that we gave them 5,000, which is what, if you look at note number 9 in the budget thing, that's what it says.
Yeah.
And Connor says that on top of that there's VAT, which we will get back, which has made it the 6,000. But I would really like if somebody else could help confirm with me, because my memory says that when we gave the grant, it was a £4,000 grant, which was 10% of what they were asking. So how come it became 5 and then 6,000?
Do you want to comment?
Councillor
Yeah.
It was the decision that was made was that the grant was £5,000.
Councillor Smythe?
To my recall.
Councillor
Thank you,
Henderson?
Chair. Well, surely just checking the minutes would clear that up, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's
A record of it somewhere. I mean, I honestly can't remember what we did, but I'm pretty sure that would clear it up.
I remember 5,000.
Yeah. I haven't got that same notebook. It was filled, unfortunately. I'll check though. I remember where the sort of debate went was about the sort of tickets, annual passes, all of this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
And it ended up with quite a bigger number in the end. And so I presume that's why it ended up as 5,000.
Okay.
Well, it didn't quite work that way around, Councillor White. What happened was the council agreed a grant of £5,000. And we were expecting a number of annual passes in return, and then actually we were offered more passes in return, because rather than them all be at the family rate, whoever won one of these annual passes for filling in the community review survey could redeem the type of pass that was best suited to them. So rather than off the top of my head it being 250, I think it ended up being 300.
Yeah, and they were £25 sort of annual passes or something like that.
It was about, but the decision was that the grant was for £5,000, and the reason that it's come through as £6,000 on the schedule of payments, because the schedule of payments notes the amount that was paid, but that includes VAT because the Heritage Trust is VAT registered, but we claim the VAT back.
Okay.
Although it's a grant in a sense, we've bought 300 passes.
Okay.
So that's why the VAT applies,
Okay.
but we claim it back. So the net expenditure will then be £5,000 after the next VAT reclaim, which I believe is done either quarterly or certainly half yearly.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions on the schedule of payments? So move on to the budget.
Your Worship,
sorry.
could it be, have you got
sorry.
a copy to sign?
I do have a copy to sign, yes.
Yourself and Councillor White, if you could.
Okay, we'll do that. So next is the budget. We're about halfway through the year. This is our budget. Again, any questions we haven't raised in advance with Jane or Connor? There's one mistake in it I found, but I cleared that up with Jackie today. On Mayor's Day, catering hadn't been paid.
Was it noted in here that it had been paid? Right, okay.
So it looked very cheap. Any questions on the budget? Councillor Don Francesco.
Sorry, I didn't ask this previously, Your Worship. Has the My Mayor's allowance gone to the Mental Health Network charity?
I don't know, have the Mental Health Network said they've been paid? I've asked for it to be paid several times, so, and I know that Jackie has asked for it to be paid several times as well, but I haven't been in the office all of today, that's why I turned up late, and haven't asked that question. So right now, I don't have an answer, but I've asked for it to be paid several times.
Yes, I know you have.
Councillor Napper.
Thank you, Your Worship. Excuse me. Why is the town hall lettings down by quite a big percentage?
Just because it's half year.
I think it's because the budget figure is for the whole year, but we're about halfway through. So if you double the actual income, we might be over, but we're doing better than budget.
So we'll come back up.
Yeah.
Is what you're saying.
This Councillor Napper is a snapshot as of now, so we're halfway through the financial year. So it doesn't quite work out on every budget line, but you'd roughly expect about half the income to be in or half the expenditure to be made. Now, it doesn't always work like that. No. Sometimes costs are front loaded, sometimes they come in or are paid right at the end of a financial year, but generally you'd expect to see that. So that's why obviously the income is generally showing under budget at the moment because we're halfway through a year, but then so is the expenditure. So when you scroll through it, I mean, I'm not going to teach a brownie to suck eggs, but red is not so good and green is good. You'd hope at the end of the year that actually everything would be black. Now, it never is because budgeting is an art, not a science.
I understand. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councillor Manning?
I was just going to say, Your Worship, that the other reason lettings could be down is because we're probably not getting a lot of income from letting the small town hall out for hire.
Sure. Any other questions? Councillor Smythe.
I'd like to propose that we accept the budget monitoring report and
Happy to move to vote on that? Seconded by
Steve Henderson.
I will suffice.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. So an update on progress in St Dunstan's house. Connor.
Thank you, Your Worship. I had a very good recent progress meeting with the contractors. The project is ever so slightly behind, but that's because there's been a lot more works needed to the roof than were anticipated. So the roof, the rafters were the original rafters when St Dunstan's House was built in the mid-1800s, and they've quite significantly bowed in the centre about 3 inches. So we've had to put new rafters in, but because it's listed, retain the old ones. It makes no sense, but that's what happens with listed buildings. But generally, the project is progressing well. I don't have anything particularly to flag. I will post the most recent pictures of the shared area and send it round to councillors to have a look. And I'm due to do another public Facebook post. Recently did the video with Gabriel Avalon that's now on YouTube. I hope he'll change the video thumbnail, but we'll wait and see. We are awaiting confirmation about further funding still. So the Community Ownership Fund, despite the fact we all eagerly awaited the budget, and despite the fact that the budget has now been announced, they haven't made any decisions about the Community Ownership Fund specifically. It hasn't been cancelled, but they haven't agreed to continue with the round that we were in, which was the round that started before the general election and then was put on hold. I have had a couple of queries come back on our public works loan application. They came back today, so I haven't had a chance to look at them, but I've seen that we've had a response from the Ministry for MHCLG, Housing, Communities and Local Government. So I will action that again later this week. But I have had positive news from the Somerset Integrated Care Board, which is one of the many arms. The NHS is a bit like an octopus, has many, many arms. And one of their directors has been in touch with me and has asked for more information about St Dunstan's House, because there could be the potential of capital funding from the NHS for the project. So I've provided them that information, and the director of the ICB who asked for it came back to me and said, perfect, that's exactly what I wanted. And he said that he will do what he can to move capital funds our way. So I haven't heard anything back on that, Your Worship. I presume that will go to a board meeting of the ICB. So there is a bit of a glimmer of hope there, but no guarantees. So I think that's my update, Your Worship. I don't know whether Councillor White has anything to add if I've forgotten anything.
No, I'll mention a little bit in the town deal bit. Thank you.
Happy to take any questions if there are, Your Worship.
Yeah, any questions on St Dunstan's House? The workers seem to come and go. There seems to be occasional days there's just nobody there. Not your problem, I know.
I suppose it depends what individual jobs and trades are needing to be done and availability of certain subcontractors.
Sure.
It won't be the only project that many of our subcontractors are working on. There are some days where people are here quite late in the day, and there are some days where they are finished perhaps a little bit earlier. It tends to be sort of swings and roundabouts, but to not use another expression, it will all come out in the wash, and our contractors are certain when you look at our critical path, they can bring it back onto schedule.
Okay. Don Francesco?
Thank you. Is there a deadline, please, with the match funding that we applied for? Is there like a date where you will definitely need it?
Yes, Councillor Don Francesco, January.
January.
That's our cash flow forecast is showing that we will have spent through the town deal money. I submitted a claim a few days ago that actually we've had several reallocations from the town deal and have been awarded additional money from the Robert Richards Initiative, which is another project for the renewable, some of the renewable technology that's going into the building. Now, that last claim that I made, if you look at our initial grant offering that's in the grant funding agreement that hasn't been updated since we signed it, that claim actually took us over that amount, but I'm waiting for the programme team. I know we've been awarded more money than is on that claim form, but the programme team have not updated our grant funding agreement. So the claim form, the grant funding agreement is showing that we have a grant of 1.395 million, but actually it's 1.6 something million by the time we've had the reallocations. But the grant funding agreement nor the claim form has been updated. So the last claim, technically, if you looked just at those numbers, took us over. But we're still within the amount of money that we have from the town deal. Now, the Community Ownership Fund, we were expecting to hear about that back in the summer. Public Works Loan Board, I think the council agreed to investigate and apply for that in September. Now, you know, it's never as easy as a private individual or a business who can just rock up to a bank and say, can I borrow some money? And they go, yeah, probably. It takes a little bit longer, so I'm working on that. And I put in an expression of interest to the National Lottery probably about 6 weeks ago, and they said that it takes anywhere up to 12 weeks to get an initial thing back from them. Really, what has not exacerbated the problem but made it slightly more present in the front of my mind is the fact that the Community Ownership Fund is so significantly behind when we were expecting to hear.
Sure.
That it's basically delayed us looking into other funding as well. But we are, as a design team, a programme team, a project team, we are certain that the works on site are not going to stop. I just need to get a couple more confirmations done by sometime in January or perhaps February. So there still is a bit of time and we are working toward it, but January, February is about when, on our cash flow forecast, the current committed funding runs out. So if any of you want to write to Sarah Dyke MP, like I have, and asked her to stress the importance of getting a decision one way or the other on the Community Ownership Fund application, please do.
Thank you very much. Happy to move on? Yeah. Okay, so the next one is all about asset and service devolution from Somerset, which has been waiting for quite a long time, suddenly accelerated, and I think Connor's got another update for us. He's also looking for approval to take it forward into the next stage of actual decisions, I think. So you should have seen in our papers, the paper from him, it's got 4 recommendations at the end. Do you want to speak?
Yeah, Your Worship, if I may. What I shall do, I was planning to produce a bit of a presentation around this, but I haven't had a chance to, so I'll take you through the report. So the council set up a subcommittee to look at this. So the subcommittee has been looking at the detail of what is on offer from Somerset Council. So the first thing that we considered and indeed have started incurring expenditure on was St John's toilets. The point that has come to is that Somerset Council have presented us with a standard lease that they are presenting to all of the towns, parishes that have a set of toilets, and they are asking for us to sign that peppercorn rent lease for a period of 25 years. I had initially pushed back on that and said I think 25 years is too long because we want the freehold, but Somerset Council have said for them that's a red line. They're standardising the process and they want a lease for 25 years. So one of my recommendations is that, of course, I will check. I've had the heads of terms, and subject to the lease being satisfactory, to go ahead and sign that lease. So that's a decision that sits with full council. It could sit with property and assets, but because it's asset and service devolution and it's an additional responsibility, I considered it best to come to full council. So that could be delegated to myself in conjunction with the subcommittee to consider that lease is acceptable. I saw Councillor Cook's hand went up.
Are you happy to take questions as we go?
Yeah, rather than save them up for the end.
So, Councillor Cook.
Well, just to clarify, when you say that the lease is 25 years and it's the red line, does that mean that that's all it's going to be ever 25-year leases, or are they?
Well,
going to be
plan, Councillor Cook.
Freehold, or?
The plan will be to actually start the transfer of the freehold during that time. I had pushed back and asked for a shorter lease, so it was more in the front of their minds, whereas they might think it's 25 years, we can park that. If I'm an officer there at the moment, I will never have to deal with that. But we have stressed that we want the freehold, but the title is for the entire car park, so they aren't going to transfer the title to us. They need to split it, and that's a more complicated legal process, and they don't want to go through that at the moment because they've not only got Glastonbury to be thinking about, it's all the other towns of our size, and then the towns and parishes that are smaller, because they're basically working who can save them the most to who can save them the least. So the plan will be actually not to renew a lease, it will be to have the freehold before that lease is even up. But there is an addition to the heads of terms was if parishes have made any expenditure on the toilets and Somerset Council decide either to initiate a break clause or to not renew a lease and transfer the freehold, there is an indemnity on any of that expenditure. So for round figures, if we spent £10,000 and then Somerset Council either activate a break clause or in 25 years say, actually we're not renewing that or transferring the freehold, we're going to keep them, they give that £25,000 expenditure that we've incurred back.
Oh. Councillor Cottle?
Yeah, just a quick one, sort of a point of order in a way, I suppose, or whatever. I was sure that I put my name down to be on this subcommittee, but I haven't received any emails.
You've received the same emails that everyone else has, Councillor Cottle.
Yeah?
Yes.
Okay, I can't remember seeing it. Okay.
Your Glastonbury email address.
Oh, well, since you've been very good on that and you've got them transferred across to my county one,
yeah,
they should appear there.
Yeah, they should.
Okay.
But you've had the same summons that everyone else has.
Right, thanks.
I assure you.
Councillor John. Councillor
John.
Councillor John, thank you.
I always knew I was instantly forgettable.
Not at all.
The recommendation, just a point of clarity, the recommendations that we're receiving now, i.e. I think I heard the clerk say recommendation to approve this item. These are the recommendations from the subcommittee that's been meeting to discuss it. Is that correct?
No, probably not technically. They're my recommendations having written this report and worked with the subcommittee.
So do we assume as a council that the subcommittee are generally in agreement with your recommendation?
So what I'm asking for is that the town council delegate to myself in conjunction with the subcommittee to fully review, because I've only had heads of terms, to review the entire lease and if it considers it acceptable to then sign it. Now we're being pressed to sign this lease as soon as possible because Somerset Council's Assets Department have obviously been given targets by which they need signatures. So you would authorise me as the proper officer to sign it, but in conjunction with the subcommittee would be that if the subcommittee turned around to me and said, we don't like that lease, don't sign it, I wouldn't sign it.
Your Worship, is there any merit in dealing with these one at a time, or is it such that we would be able to agree to the recommendations at the end?
So there is a section 4, when I get to the bottom, the recommendations are all typed and you can take them separately.
Okay. Councillor Smythe, then we should move on.
Just to say before you continue, Connor, I have read and fully understood this report and I think it's an excellent report.
Okay.
Second that.
Moving on.
Very, very good.
So in terms of closed circuit television CCTV, this is a service that Somerset Council have requested that we financially support. The council has agreed to that support. We haven't signed the service level agreement yet or paid the invoice because we were waiting for works to be done on St John's toilets. It's become completely obvious that Somerset Council, whilst they've done some very basic works, we have done the rest. And subject to a satisfactory service level agreement, which you've already delegated to me to consider and sign, I will then have that invoice for the cameras paid, now that Somerset Council have invoiced us for the correct number of cameras, not the incorrect number of cameras which they had done previously. And just to note that all of these CCTV cameras in Glastonbury are operational. They are quite unique in that sense. You hop over the bridge to street and I think they have less than a quarter of their cameras actually working, and they are good quality and digital cameras. So they are basically, in terms of Somerset's /Mendip CCTV, some of the best ones. So that's just an update on CCTV. Buildings and land. So we expressed an interest in a number of buildings and pieces of land. There is still the open query on St Edmund's Hall. Somerset Council have agreed to the transfer of the hall. Haven't yet agreed to the transfer of the car park, but I pushed back on that, stressed that the inclusion of the car park around the hall is a red line for this entire package. Somerset Council's Asset Department have, I believe, continued to say no. It's been referred to the portfolio holder. I spoke with Councillor Cottle, who was going to speak to that councillor, Councillor Rigby, I think, and stressing the importance of the transfer with that land, with the hall. I just haven't yet had an update, but I fully expect that the answer will come back. Yes, you can have that land along with the hall. I believe Councillor Cottle's just going to give him a nudge now. In terms of St Dunstan's car park, the cottage and the units, all within the car park, that's the freehold transfer of that has been agreed. It's been agreed in principle, but I've been told that basically means it's a yes.
Very good.
The various plots of land, so the subcommittee went through the district council. We had to go through the old ones. There was a link to the map that was prepared and where the subcommittee
impressive. It's been well maintained, so well done the council for doing that. You know, it has to go through its checks every year. So all I regret to hear is that, you know, it's down to the council to provide them now with the funding. I mean, that's so sad. You know, where has our community gone wrong, where we can't get out and get up and go out and fund some things for ourselves? You know, it's really tragic, just handing out money all the time. I just want to say that, and congratulations to Hayley if she is listening, because I think that group were a real education, absolutely dedicated, marvellous.
Thank you. Councillor Cottle.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I've got one query, which I'm actually, it's coming back into my mind now again about this. Too much going on in my mind. We've got 68,000 for additional staff. We're saying 2 full-time. I would have thought there would be a little bit of value in saying the equivalent of 2 full-time staff, because I would, maybe it's easier to find people who would do 20 hours a week than it is to do 40 or 38.
I would contradict that, Councillor Cottle. In my experience of recruiting, a full-time role is more attractive than a part-time role, and selfishly, from a management point of view, it's much easier to manage a full-time employee, or say 2 full-time employees, than it is to manage 3 or 4 part-time employees. The exact structure of exactly what is, I mean, I could, if I won't edit it now, but I could put FTE, full-time equivalent. I'm not wedded to exactly what form that takes. That was just the guess. However, in terms of a work programme, which the subcommittee and staffing were thinking about, if it was a slightly more regular work programme and you had a pair of operatives who generally work together, you could say, right, on a Monday you go out and do this, on a Tuesday you go do this, you use the weed machine twice a week, you go do this, you have to look after this piece of land. It's not, it's going to be a bit more...
It's a detail.
It is a detail that we don't need to go into.
Yeah, okay.
So, it's a detail. It's a detail. Councillor Manning.
Just in response to Councillor Cook's comment, there are a group of residents who are looking to set up a friends.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Great.
Is going to be happening probably later this year. Probably
Councillor Cousins.
Just a point of clarity again, Your Worship. Market line, does that include anywhere the loss of revenue from the car park? If should it, or has it?
Yeah, that's the 60.
So I've included the loss of revenue from renting the car park, which is the 16,150 of expenditure, because we won't be getting that rent. The actual footprint of the market would then be up to us to decide. So I haven't approximated it on exactly what it is now, because I've got an idea, especially if we've got the new atrium in the middle, you could have more inside stalls, fewer outside stalls in the car park, and lose fewer car parking spaces. But that's a pretty easy approximation to make, because I know how much each car parking space earns us each year. And if we drew different layouts for the market, you could say, right, it's that amount times that many spaces, that amount times that many spaces. So we could look into that more, but considering the rates we reset for hiring the car park, it doesn't compensate us for all of the loss of expenditure, but it's a lot better than it used to be. So I don't think if you added it onto that expenditure line rather than chucking it in somewhere else, I don't think it would be a huge amount more than that, but it would take something off of the net income. But ultimately, the market would be a net income generator.
So I've got Councillor, when you Dougal, and then Smythe.
Yes, so while we're talking about St Dunstan's car park and the market, I remember back when we were talking about maybe being able to get all of the revenue from the car park rather than lots of people not paying for parking. And that once we owned the whole car park,
freehold's part of that, yes.
Have security people who would be able to issue. We looked at.
Yeah.
Who can then make sure that people do actually pay to park.
Yeah.
And that would then increase our revenue by about 30,000. That's my memory.
Yeah.
Ish, a bit wrong. Have we budgeted that in any shape or form with all of what this is going on? Because I haven't noticed it.
No, I haven't, because that would go into the fuller budget, because this doesn't budget for car park income. But if I have a timeline that suggests we can get the freehold and we can do something in the car park that will reduce non-payment, then that would factor into the overall budget that we set in December at Finance and General Purposes.
I remember at one point we did look for firms that do lease car parks and make sure that people pay. And
I'm still in contact with a number of them, but we need the freehold before we can do anything. Yes. But yeah, that will all be considered later.
That increased.
Yes, it could. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Councillor Smythe.
Thank you, Your Worship. I again thank the clerk for this excellent report, and I'd like us to move on to its recommendations for this full council to approve of those recommendations if they see fit, as I do. And I think there's no need to go into such detail. As I said before, I've read this, fully understood it, and we should move on.
Are we happy to move on?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. Are we happy to take the 4 recommendations as a package?
Right.
Yes. So are we ready to move to vote?
Or could I have a proposer that recommendations 1 to 4 are accepted, and then a seconder if you're going to take it that way, Your Worship?
That's what I proposed.
So we say,
Sorry, Councillor Smythe proposed.
Indra seconded.
Thank you.
So all those in favour of these? All those in favour? That might even be unanimous, I think. All those against? All those abstaining? That's unanimous.
Wonderful. Thank
Very
you.
good. Very good. So this is quite a step up for Glastonbury Town Council. It's in a sense in response to Somerset shrinking. We are stepping up. So well done us.
Yes, absolutely.
Definitely a process is in motion. It's got a way to run, but you can see the direction. So thank you, everyone. Very good. Moving on, we've got a dozen more items in our agenda. So let's keep it moving. We've got 2 motions from councillors. Councillor Osborne, do you want to propose the first one?
Yes, it's sort of self-explanatory, and
sure.
It's something which has really been driven by our friends in Somerset Bus Partnership. They're working on, and there are people here I know who can talk better about it than me, but they're working on a community-run bus service to Castle Carey. This has been brought up at a number of the parish councils on the way to Castle Carey, and it has been greeted with some enthusiasm in some of those places. What I'm proposing here is that this council commits to being part of the stakeholder group that is working to coordinate, set up and run these new proposed bus services.
Does anybody want to speak against the motion?
Anybody hate buses?
Or any questions? Councillor Smythe?
I have a question. I see that from the motion it says be lead partner, not just be part of. It says be lead partner. And I wondered what that commits to.
I think it commits. If we're talking about the route to Castle Carey, we will be the largest, wealthiest, frankly, elected body between here and the station. So I think that would give us some role in driving this initiative.
Councillor Scottle?
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, I have a few comments about this. I like the idea, obviously, but as it's designed to be in line with the trains leaving and returning, would that be correct?
Oh, yeah.
Well, then you would have to get one there extremely early in the morning because it's a 7:30, has to be there for the 7:30 train to London. So that would be important because the people get into London just about at 9. I have a friend who does this on a regular basis. Okay, so that would be important, but it'd be a fantastic asset for us and for the villages. But we'd have to leave fairly early in the mornings. Start.
May I respond as a seconder to that point?
Oh yeah. Okay.
So that's exactly the reason why we need to set up a partnership, is to discuss all of these minutiae, not in this chamber, but in that meeting.
They're actually talking about doing an exit questionnaire of people coming out of the station to kind of find out what villages they're going to, what they're doing, why they're cut, you know. so that we get a big picture of
Yeah.
what's going on.
So I think it's a great idea. Are we ready to move to vote on it? Yes?
Chair, I did have a question.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, just obviously it does seem like a great idea, and if we vote in favour of this, presumably then we've got to go through the costings and viability and all things, like feasibilities and things like that. Yeah, okay.
This is being part of the group to do all that.
Yeah, I'll propose that. I'll propose that.
Proposed by Councillor Cook.
Yep.
It's already been proposed.
Oh, sorry. It's been proposed and seconded.
Who's the second, John?
Councillor Cousins.
Yeah, well, we're
So
voting
let's
Move to vote.
All those in favour? All those in favour?
Move to vote.
Stop voting now, great.
Okay. All those against? All those against? All those abstaining? One abstention.
An abstention, sulking.
No one against, one abstention. Okay. Okay, thank you. So second motion, Councillor White, do you want to speak to this?
Oh, thank you. What we're asking this council for, please, is for a grant of £500 towards this year's community Christmas lunch. So this is the event we hold down in the main hall. We've had 360 people last year. We're sort of going along the same process. We had a meeting yesterday, our third, and we're just about to order the victuals, which my friend is a new word, but it means sort of food and supplies. Thank you, but it's wonderful. We would like this council to support the Christmas lunch and please grant us £500.
Your Worship, move to vote.
Are we ready to move to vote? Councillor Smythe.
I would like to ask the question, did we support it last year?
Yeah.
And to what tune?
500.
Well, that's it then, isn't it?
Moving to vote on this?
Yes.
All those in favour? All those against? All those against? All those abstaining? So passed, but one abstention.
You live in the street anyway, Terry.
Come here.
People came.
But you're still welcome to lunch. You're still welcome to come.
Terry, let us know.
Okay.
Thank you.
So now for something completely different, as they say in the comedy sketches. To consider the open consultation on division boundaries for Somerset. So who's speaking to this?
I'll give a very brief overview, Your Worship. I shan't subject you to my voice for that.
It's one of our papers. It's in one of our papers.
There is a division boundary review happening with Somerset Council, and that will reduce the number of elected Somerset councillors from 110 to 96. So all of the division boundaries, I presume, maybe not all of them, but there will be changes. And a consultation is now live. So when I shared this with councillors via email, there was some appetite that the town council make a response. I don't propose that we do that during this meeting, but I don't suppose, Your Worship, if you've got it in front of you, if you can clearly see the closing date, that would impact how we would.
The closing date is the 20th of January. So we've got 2 more council meetings.
Yeah, what I would potentially suggest, Your Worship, if there are councillors interested in it, you form a working group, you meet to consider it as councillors, and you bring back a suggested response to a future council meeting, and you can just meet as councillors wherever you like, in the pub, in someone's house, whatever, but go through the information and consider what you would like your response to be, bring it back to a full council meeting for agreement. That would be my suggestion, because it's quite a meaty topic, Your Worship.
That sounds very sensible to me. We've got 2 more council meetings. Would we like to set up a working group to consider a collective response?
Yes, I propose working group.
Would anyone like to second a working group?
Yeah, I think I'd better be involved, hadn't I?
Okay. Are we happy to move to vote on setting up a working group to consider this? So all those in favour of setting up a working group to consider the division boundaries? All those against? All those abstaining? I think that's unanimous.
Thank you. Do you now want to agree the membership?
Shall we agree the membership? Who'd like to be on the working group besides Indra and Nick? Would anyone else like to be on the working group?
Can we do it electronically?
You mean meeting?
It will be completely led by yourselves, Councillor Smythe. You can do it however you like.
Asking the mayor, yeah.
Fair enough.
The answer is yes.
That's what I assumed. Yeah.
Would anyone else like to be on the working group? Did you get those names?
I've got Councillors Don Francesco, Cottle, Manning and Cousins.
Would anyone else like to be on the working group? If you change your mind, and Councillor Smythe.
It is very informal. You can join it, leave it, do whatever you like because it's not a formally constituted body. But if you four as councillors would like to use space in the town hall for your meeting, do just get in touch with either of the Sarahs to book the space, and you can meet and consider the information and bring a recommendation of a response back to either the December or January full council meetings.
Want to set a target of coming back in December or not? Maybe not.
That would be better, Your Worship, only because we set the budget in January and that will be a long meeting. So you might wish to put that item of business, especially if there's going to be questions and considerations. It's probably better for December.
Councillor Napper?
Thank you, Your Worship. Would you add me to that working group, please?
Of course, Councillor Napper.
So could you try to come back in December?
Yes.
Is that okay? Great.
Yes.
So let's move on. Item 12, considering changes to the calendar of meetings and committee membership. I think this is just reminding us what committees we signed up for back in April and also tweaking the schedule. Am I right?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. So because full council agreed the calendar of meetings, but changes have had to be made, it needs to be brought back. So I have got a revised calendar of meetings that shows a number of changes to our scheduled meetings. And those of you with eagle eyes will notice that there are therefore less or fewer meetings. It is proposed that, so for instance, the 2030 Formerly Resilience Committee is going to meet less frequently. The Climate Emergency Advisory Committee is going to meet less frequently. The Staffing Committee is going to move from having completely scheduled meetings to 1 or 2 scheduled meetings a year and then meeting when it needs to. The Youth Provision Committee has changed to once 6 monthly meetings, so we'll meet twice a year. This was a review based on a number of meetings have been in quora, and there have been instances where agendas have been called for meetings because they're in the calendar, but actually we've had to rack our brains of things for you to come and consider, make decisions on. And there have been some meetings that have been purely updates when really you should be summoned to meetings to make decisions. So this really is just for noting. And then in the office, we have compiled a committees list, which has the membership and the dates on it. And what we're going to do is we're going to circulate that. Now, unfortunately, because I was out all day, I did actually want printed copies for you all, but I forgot to ask all of my colleagues to do that for tonight. So what I'm going to do, I will circulate it electronically, but for the next meeting, I will have a printed copy for you all. So it's very clear what committees you're on and when the scheduled dates are. But you obviously, if there are additional meetings called or they meet as and when required, which quite a few of our committees do, just need to keep on top of those summoned dates. So I will circulate all this information after the meeting, give you printed copies at the next meeting when I next see you all, unless I see you all in between. Or I can make them available down in the information centre if you want to go and pick them up. But this is just for noting, Your Worship, because it was a decision of full council that has changed, so I needed to bring it back. And I just wanted to make sure that everyone knew what committees they were or weren't on, because council years blur into one.
Sure.
Noted.
Councillor Smythe?
Could the clerk note that A361 meeting once a quarter now?
Have you actually scheduled your dates, Councillor Smythe, or do you just set your dates at the end of your last meeting? Yeah, so for those committees that do it in that way, I haven't put it on the calendar because I don't know, for instance, when you're meeting until the end of 2025, but you'll continue to decide when you meet quarterly at the end of your meetings, and that's not a problem at all. It just doesn't need to be on this calendar. These are the meetings we know are going to happen.
Yeah.
But you can meet as and when are required, what is required for the 361.
Thank you.
Okay, happy to move on?
Yeah.
So, this looks very technical. To receive and consider the external auditor report and certificate.
Thank you, Your Worship. Short again from myself. It was in the file beforehand. We have received the external auditor certificate. So every year we have an internal audit. That is then submitted to a nationally appointed firm of solicitors for this area to have an external audit. And what they really do is cast their eye over the internal audit, ask any additional questions, and then will issue a certificate. So the comment that our external auditors came back with, in their opinion, I disagree with them. We ticked a box incorrectly. So assertion 1, which was, they unhelpfully haven't put it here. We ticked yes to assertion 1, which had to do with the fact that we felt we prepared adequate accounting statements through the year, which we felt we had. However, because the internal auditors raised a query that bank reconciliations didn't come to the council, in their opinion, frequently enough, because they hadn't done for quite a while, even though they had been done by officers and were subject to check by 2 appointed councillors, which were yourself, your worship, and Councillor Manning. The external auditor's opinion was that because those bank reconciliations didn't come to full council, we should have ticked no, that we didn't prepare adequate accounting statements to keep on top of our finances through the year. So that, to me, is subjective and a bit of semantics, whether you think that constitutes you've prepared adequate accounting statements or not. That was their only comment, but other than that, they have come back and said that there were no other matters of concern for the external auditor, that we are a correctly run local authority, and that they have signed off our audit for the year 2023-24, which, when you consider that there are the vast majority of principal authorities that spend hundreds of millions of pounds a year, haven't had signed off accounts or signed off audits for quite a number of years. So we are subject to more scrutiny at our level than principal authorities are. But just for the council to formally note that it has received the conclusion of audit for 2023-24, and any detailed considerations will come to finance and general purposes on the 12th of December.
Thank you. So that's noted.
Do I have a proposer and a seconder and a vote that it's noted, your worship? Just belt and braces.
I'm happy to propose it.
Thank you.
Councillor Napper will second it.
Thank you.
And are we, so all those in favour of accepting it as proposed is, I think, unanimous? That is unanimous. Yep.
Thank you very much, your worship.
So next up is the resolutions of delegated committees. Just noting these.
Thank you, your worship. So these are generally for noting. However, there is one recommendation that we need to take note of. So these are decisions that have already been taken by delegated committees.
Okay.
So the paragraph in orange is a recommendation. However, considering the report that came earlier, that has already actually been dealt with. So we don't actually need to deal with that, your worship.
Okay.
So they are the resolutions of delegated committees, your worship.
Is that the end?
Yeah, I scrolled through them all.
That's great.
That took us all the way up to the in-bloom meeting that happened last night.
Very good. So next up is the updates from advisory committees and any recommendations there.
So I don't know, your worship, if there is a councillor who wishes to talk about town centre crime reduction, but there were no recommendations. But the Climate and Ecological Emergency Advisory Committee made a number of recommendations. However, the third recommendation has been dealt with by motion 10A that happened earlier this evening.
So Councillor Wendy-Diggle, can I speak?
Okay, yeah. So I mean that there's these recommendations, and then there's some information that I want to give you with regard to the climate adaptation plan. If you remember Somerset Wildlife Trust, and we talked a bit about it at the last meeting, and then you said you needed specifics, and from that meeting we got specifics. So a budget of 1,000 for next year, that's in line with what we had this year, with the 10% added on to make it 1,100, and we hope that you will approve that. Do we need to vote on these one by one?
That recommendation actually,
That will go to finance.
Although it's come here, I have noted it and I will raise it at finance and general purposes.
So the second one is about the repair cafe, and I've got two things about the repair cafe. The £150 is to do with the Act to Adapt Climate Adaptation Plan. Now, one of the things that Somerset Wildlife Trust earmarked, noted, is that we have a lot of flooding. We're having much more rain. When rain goes from our gutters into our downpipes into the drains and goes from our driveways and into the drains, this then overwhelms the sewage works, and the sewage works then spills out onto the rivers and causes pollution in the rivers. So one of our primary concerns is to try to stop this. Now, there's various big ways we can stop it, but one little way that helps, it's only little and it only helps, is to install water butts. And so the Repair Cafe have been going around, they got a deal with Proper Job, and they've just been given lots of those lovely blue barrels, and they're actually going around and they're installing water butts for people. I'm one of the people they've installed it, which is why I got them to do it for me so I could talk about it, because I know what a good job they are doing. They are a small team at the moment, 2 or 3 people, and they want to be able to train other teams, because lots of people are saying they want to have the water butts installed. With winter coming on, the more we can get installed, the quicker the better. So they have asked for a grant of £150. Now, it was decided at the Climate Emergency Group meeting to actually bring this to Town Council rather than it coming out of the Climate Emergency Group budget. Because the Act to Adapt, the Climate Adaptation Plan, is more of a big council thing. The council have agreed to support it. And so this is a first request to the council to support it in a very little way, and we'll go on to bigger things in a moment.
So you'd like us to vote on and agreed
something on that.
For tools, to tool up people to install water butts.
Councillor Smythe?
Question to you, Serena. There's the caveat, should they need it? There's the caveat, should they need it?
Should they need it? That's fine.
Didn't we hear that they had...
It says, should they need it?
Didn't we hear that they had received the money already?
I haven't heard that, no. And I've just talked with Laura, and I said that I was going to ask for the 150 for the tools, and she was happy that I said that.
Councillor Cousins?
They've unfortunately had to leave because they got hungry and needed to go and eat.
Thank you, Your Worship. I think that the fact that those 4 words at the end exist, should they need it, is enough to mean that the grant won't be spent if it doesn't need to be. Therefore, I would like to propose that we accept the recommendation.
Councillor Cook, did you want to say something?
So can I just ask what size it is?
The one that they did in the front of my house is one of those slim ones that would just fit in, but they've got the big blue ones now. I don't know if you go to any allotment, you'll see with these big blue butts. And they've been given a whole load, I think.
Okay. 200 litre probably. 200 litre probably.
I think they originate from Ethiopia, don't they? They originate from Ethiopia, bringing skins in, I believe.
So the clerk wants to say something.
Can I continue with that question? Sorry. Right, so 200 litres, that's a bit different to what I was imagining. And especially from an environmental health point of view, of storing water butts on a property, for instance, which I'm assuming you're doing, which Bristol Water has a problem with.
Water butts is a very common thing, Rick.
Yeah, I know it's a very common thing, but, you know, have you considered all of the disadvantages to it as well?
No, all we're doing is we're installing water butts in order to help stop the flooding through the drains. It's something that people have been doing in Britain for probably several hundred years.
What if the water's already infected?
Infected with what?
With whatever.
But people, it's rainwater, and people use it to water their gardens. Well, the idea is you try to make what
Okay.
is 1/3 empty, so that when it comes down, it doesn't.
Order.
So you've done, yeah, so you've done that. That's all you had to say. Yeah. Thank you.
The clerk wanted to say something.
Well, two things now.
Two things.
Because these installations are happening on private properties, we don't have to worry about the water quality. I think most water butts do actually contain pretty nasty bacteria, but it's on private property, so it's not really to do with us. We couldn't store water on Fisher's Hill because it's a public piece of land and there would be a risk to the public. But if you own or rent your house and you decide to have a water butt and it's only a risk to you, then I've got a water butt in my front garden because I don't have a outside tap there, and I'm putting water butts in my back garden on our new shed. That's completely at your own risk, so we don't have to worry about that. But just a point on the grant, not speaking against this in the slightest, but strictly it's finance and general purposes, not full council that gives grants. Now, it was a motion to this full council meeting tonight for the Christmas lunch, and that was because finance and general purposes is not meeting until the 20th of December, so that was a bit late for Christmas lunch. But just from a procedural point of view, in terms of reference, it's actually finance and general purposes that these requests should really be going to. If you want to change that and have full council consider grants, that is absolutely fine, but really they should be going to finance and general purposes, and that's just a procedural point of view, but it doesn't affect, you can obviously make this grant because you sit above finance and general purposes, but I think we should just be mindful of where decisions should actually be going, because otherwise that is the point.
So Serena, do you want to push it forward tonight? Or?
John Cousins has got his hand up. So.
I know, I'm asking you a question. Are you happy to defer it to finance and general purposes?
It's already here, Your Worship.
We were told to make a recommendation to full council. We're making a recommendation to full council.
It should have been a recommendation to finance and general purposes, but it's here now, so you can consider it. But it was just a point from me that grants are finance and general purposes, not full council.
So, Councillor Cousins.
Well, my understanding is under standing orders, we should defer this to the appropriate committee. I'm very happy at the clerk or Your Worship's request to withdraw my motion. If you feel that it's appropriate now that it's been discussed here and councillors are all present and have heard it, that motion goes forward, then it could only do so with a second.
Sure. Would anyone like to second it?
Yeah, I've been doing it.
Who seconded it? Sorry, I didn't catch that. Lindsay, thank you.
So are we happy to move to vote on this?
Yeah.
All those in favour? All those against? All those abstaining? So one against. Okay, thank you.
So in connection with the Repair Cafe, they've got a banner that they have had made to let people know they meet in St Ben's on the third Saturdays of every month, and they've asked permission for it to hang outside, you know, where we have banners hanging outside on the wall outside the town hall, because their Repair Cafe is going to be coming up, and to have it hanging up there for the week before the Repair Cafe. And I would like to ask this council if we're happy, as we support the Repair Cafe, that we let them hang their banner outside the town hall.
So I have advised, or someone has advised after we discussed it, the Repair Cafe, that in my opinion and officer's opinion, that's not acceptable, because the booking policy for the town hall is that if you have an event in here, you can hang a banner on the front of the town hall because we are the venue for 1 week prior. My concern would be then, where would it stop? And I personally considered it not to be acceptable, but it was not on the agenda or a recommendation, so I don't really think council should be making a decision. But if you all turn around and say that I'm being unreasonable, then I'll take that on board, and I'm quite self-aware. But we normally only allow banners for hirers of this as a venue to put up 1 week before their event in the town hall.
We did have them for the Sunlit Solar, when we were promoting Sunlit Solar as the discounted installers of PV And they had their ban out for much longer than a week. I think they had their ban out for a month.
Yeah, well, that was before my time, and if I were here, I would have been saying I personally don't consider that to be the right thing either. But
I've got Councillor Smythe and Manning wanted to speak. Yes.
Thanks. Although I'm very much in favour of the repair cafe, as everybody is here, I think the clerk has a point. We have to stick to procedure, and it's not like it's town council money that's being dealt with under the repair cafe. With all due respect, they have their own financial arrangements, and I think we should look to protect procedure here.
Councillor Manning?
I was just going to say that I think the repair cafe is a wonderful thing, we should support it, but I do wonder whether there's an alternative site that we could find, because we own quite a few bits of buildings around the centre of town. Are there not other lakes that could be suitable, which are not sort of like booked? Like I know there's building work going on at St Dunstan's house, but sort of in the vicinity of that, are there any railings there perhaps as an alternative, just for something to think about?
So, how to proceed? Councillor Don Francesco.
I feel we should support the repair cafe and we seem to be supporting the repair cafe. It's a wonderful act of reducing waste.
Absolutely. I don't think anybody who wouldn't want to support them, but can I suggest then we look for, as was suggested, we look for somewhere that is close, that is high up, and come back to it.
I'll second that. Yeah, if you want to put that as a proposal.
if you want to, as councillors, go away and consider where would be acceptable. You can certainly go away, consider that, and then come back to us with a suggestion.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be.
I'm also in support of the repair cafe. I just don't think a banner on the town hall for. I worry that it then becomes a bit selective. I just don't really want to open that can of worms.
Okay, so Councillor Henderson.
If the repair cafe is in St Ben's, hang the banner outside there.
It's less visible. Anyway, first let's go away and think about it, and if you bring it back here, if you conclude there's no other way to promote it in East Wolverhampton.
Yeah, if you want to go away as councillors and consider where else would be suitable, and the town council happens to own it, come back and have a conversation and ask, can it go there?
Yeah, I would assume it was in the building. But yes.
Okay.
Okay. Well, let me carry on with more of the act to adapt to the climate adaptation plan. So one of the things that was agreed was for a group to be set up for tree planting in the town centre. And that has got a group of 5 people who are coming together, including Beau Walsh, who was the tree officer for Mendip, when Mendip was still around. And he's going to advise on trees. And then the group will have a look at the areas at Somerset Wildlife Trust marked as being places where trees needed planting in order to help reduce heat, should we ever have heat waves and so on, and also for absorbing rainwater. And we will look in the town centre and work out where they could go, what would be the best trees, whether they could be planted in the ground or whether they need to be planters. So that's a group that has been set up and is starting.
Very good.
With regard to the flooding and the problem of overwhelming the drains and overwhelming the sewage works and pollution going into the river, there was a suggestion to do a leaflet that would explain to people that semi-permeable membranes for their driveways would actually allow the water to go through the soil rather than going into the drains, and to try to encourage a change in behaviour of people in the town to, rather than tarmacking their driveways, to have semi-permeable membranes. So that leaflet is going to start to be, yes.
Yeah, I'm just thinking on that one. Are you on the planning committee in the town hall?
No.
No.
Occasionally I come, but I have so
I would suggest that is a recommendation that is put on every single application that the town council receives.
Yes.
And it goes forward. Okay?
Nice idea, Nick. Thanks.
Okay.
Councillor Henderson?
Thank you, Chair. Well, that is something that comes to the planning committee quite often, and to be honest, most applications now do have semi-permanent membrane drives, but we also do recommend that if it's not. That's do
Yeah,
right.
so we started the process.
It's been happening for a long, long time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I just know somebody recently tarmac their drive.
Oh, God.
And so the final thing that came up is that the thermal imaging camera is now going to start to be used because we've reached the winter period, the cold period when it becomes useful. And so if you know people who would like to have their houses evaluated, then to get in touch with Melissa and or Susanna, and they're going to be the ones, because they're skilled, experienced, they know what they're doing, they're going to be the ones who are going to be willing to go out people's houses to help them reduce their energy bills.
Very good.
So that's the final thing that came up.
Perfect.
I thank you for your time listening to these wonderful ideas.
Yeah, that's good.
To help our town to become more adapted. We have a COP happening right at this moment. Our Prime Minister has said reduce carbon emissions by 80% by 20 whenever. So let's do our own little bit towards that.
Well done, Serena.
Thank you very much. So we should move on. Sorry to keep pushing us, but and let's keep it rolling. Unitary councillor reports.
Okay.
There's a couple more.
There's a couple of updates to be received.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah. So the World Heritage would like to give an update based on their consultation, and so would Neighbourhood Plan.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Update from World Heritage. Is that Councillor Cousins?
Thank you very much, Your Worship. I will try to keep this as brief as possible, but much has been said about this council's exploration of World Heritage sites, whether or not Glastonbury should indeed consider moving forward. However, much of what has been said across social media and in the press has been erroneous at best, and I feel that it would be very important to clarify the situation to this council and
Do you remember Chris Craig offered that we be in the United Reformed Church? I think that we should go ahead and do that because I know that I've got stuff to say that will come.
Call of Nature.
Oh, we've progressed now.
So sorry. Call of Nature.
No, we didn't. Thank you, Worship. I was saying that although much has been said, much of it is erroneous, and I would like to clarify the situation for the council and for the public. As you'll recall, this council budgeted up to £30,000 towards the exploration of World Heritage status. We have enlisted the services of a consultancy to scope the potential of World Heritage and whether Glastonbury is suitable and meets the criteria. And we have paid the consultancy to date £10,553, which is, although a large amount, a great deal less than what the figures that have been circulating the internet, which range from 40,000 to 127,000. The Town Council has not progressed any further than scoping with World Heritage status. There is no bid, even though Somerset Live erroneously published only a couple of days ago that we were in the process of making a bid to UNESCO. We are not. There is no bid. We have not moved forward with this process. Our current position is that now we have progressed so far with the scoping, we need to go to our community and find out whether or not they're supportive of us moving forward with this. Unfortunately, our first attempt at consulting with the community seemed to result in the community believing that we'd already progressed beyond the stages, and we're at stage 2 of dealing with UNESCO and the government. This is not true. We have not progressed with this. I need to reiterate that. The consultation has only just begun. There will be much more consultation in the future. And indeed, at the Frost Fair, there will be an opportunity for people to give their views. The next stage from that would be to reform as a council and consider the outcome of that community consultation. If our community said, no, we do not want to progress with this, this council would not progress with this. That's fairly obvious, I would think, to anybody who wishes to think about this reasonably. What I would say, though, is that out of the response and several accusations about how this council is being not transparent about moving forward with the bid, etc., I would recommend to this council that we consider establishing a new working group that is made up of stakeholders such as, for instance, the National Trust, the Abbey trustees, members of organisations that are also connected with what might be the impact of World Heritage status, and indeed members of the general public, to set up a working group that would focus on the results of the community consultation and the exploration of World Heritage, and indeed any related emerging issues, and there are many. I know that some of the concerns that people have said are really not things that are going to happen. I've heard that the Tor, there will be charging to go up the Tor, that there's a wall going to be built around the Tor, that nobody will be able to live here anymore because it will all be Airbnb. Well, these are things that perhaps are not actually things that are going to happen. I know that we've spoken with the National Trust, with their lead person related to the Southwest. They have absolutely no ambition to monetize the Tor at all. They do not wish to charge people to go up the Tor, and they certainly have no plans of building a wall around the Tor or preventing people from doing any of the things that they already do, observing the solstices, etc. I think that as a community, we should reflect on the way that perhaps Avebury, which has become a World Heritage Site, all these things are that you were able to do now. Avebury, before it was a World Heritage Site, observe solstice or Beltane or whatever, you can still do that. There is no charge to enter Avebury, and Avebury has not been overtaken by McDonald's last time I looked. So what I would say is that we do need to listen to the concerns that are genuine, and I think that they include the fact that this might attract more visitors, that there isn't already there's not adequate parking, already there isn't enough places for people to stay if they wish to visit, and these all might be compounded concerns that could happen. But concerns and risks are also opportunities to think about how we might mitigate those things. And I would suggest that the issues with more visitors, the issues with parking, and the issues about where our visitors stay are concerns that this council should already be considering. When I met with the National Trust representatives and the representatives from the Abbey, and indeed representatives from other organisations that deal with visitors, I proposed to them that they consider where their visitors, for instance, the Tor, the latest figure that I'm aware of is 750,000 people a year go up the Tor. Where do those people already park? Where do those people already stay? And for the National Trust, this isn't something that they have considered within their strategic planning. For them, those people miraculously arrive, go up the Tor, come down the Tor, and that's the end of their interest in them. The Abbey have thousands of visitors. But I don't know whether the Abbey has ever strategically thought about where those visitors park, where they stay, the impact they have on the town. For the Abbey, they are of interest from the moment they go through the turnstile and pay their money to the moment they leave. The same with other visitor attractions in this town.
Councillor Cousins, we should be...
I will be very brief. What would like to say is that these are the emerging issues that I feel that working group should also look at. I'm very pleased to say that representatives from organisations within the town would be happy to sit on that and work with us around these strategic things. Thank you very much, Your Worship. I would like to propose that I would like to propose to the Council that we set up this new working group with the stakeholders as soon as possible.
Are we free to set that up tonight?
You could agree that you're going to, but I'll need to bring a draft terms of reference to a future meeting, so December. But so it's a new. Can I just check, Councillor Cousins? Is it a new advisory committee?
In legislation, it would be seen as a new advisory committee. I think that it should be referred to as a working group.
Councillor Cook.
Thanks for that, John. Just to question two things you've said. The actual wording on the neighbourhood plan on the bottom line was obtain WS status, yeah? World Heritage status, obtain. It wasn't to investigate or to consult with or to whatever. So this is what all we're complaining about. Is that there's been no consultation whatsoever. So, of course, nobody knew what on earth was going on or, indeed, what World Heritage Site was. It was a single sentence. That's what's upset people. So they've gone and found out. And there's and as you can see from yourself and what's written on the internet about the various disasters that they've created, you know, tribes being moved away and all kinds of different things. We don't know what the impact here will be, but there is no impact assessment whatsoever. The only people who can run that are the people who live in this town, have been living there all their lives, and take the suggestion that suddenly we're going to go from 750,000 people going up the tour, you said, to what, 1.5 million? I mean, it's impossible, isn't it? That's just not possible. The other thing being, of course, that with the tour bus, there'll be no payment at the tour. The payment will be taken by the coach company operators. When they're booking, when the tourists who are coming in from wherever they're coming from, there will be a price of $25, say, or £25 or whatever for the trip up the tour. They don't care how they get there. They'll be just taken in a bus and that's it, and we'll never see the money. Simple as that. So
excuse me. This is an opportunity to discuss these things at the working group.
Yes. So the proposal is to set up a more integrated
So may I just very quickly say that the statement on the neighbourhood plan, as we have an update for neighbourhood plan. This is a statement for the neighbourhood plan vision, which is in 40 years' time, these things will have happened. That neighbourhood plan vision has gone to consultation. And if people don't like the vision that Glastonbury has achieved World Heritage status in 40 years' time, then that can be removed from the aims of the neighbourhood plan. That's the whole point of having the consultation with the community to find out what they think about it. It's not a statement of fact. It's not a statement of intent. It's a statement of vision for a neighbourhood plan. In the same way that we may have resolved all the issues around housing that we face at the moment. So it's not a fait accompli. We have not progressed with the bid. But what I would say is, can we please, if there's a seconder to the recommendation of setting up this committee, could we move to vote?
Yes. So hold on. So time is moving on. It's nearly 9:30. The proposal is to set up a more integrated or more all-embracing working group, advisory committee. Can we keep the discussion there?
I'll just get a right to reply on that last statement.
I'd rather move to vote if we can.
It's a simple question. You just got to say yes or no. Yeah?
I'd like to say no, because we've got quite a few more items to business.
Could I just have one point of clarity?
Okay, well, clearly people want to speak, so Councillor White.
So point of clarity, is that working group separate to the existing World Heritage Committee, or is that still going to carry on?
I feel that the work of the councillor-only advisory committee, it's not a committee, advisory committee that has been working with the consultants to scope the World Heritage status. That work is done. I feel that this would be a separate committee that would take this forward. Not World Heritage bid forward, the exploration forward.
Almost like the impact assessment is what we're talking about.
So if our community did not want Glastonbury to move forward as a World Heritage status, there's no point in this council spending money on impact assessment until that's been decided.
Councillor Cook, do you want to say something quickly?
Just simply that. If that's what you say, you don't need to address it again for another 40 years or something. I mean, what would be the money we're going to spend now? Is there any more money to be spent on this plan of yours to get to a certain point, not do the impact assessment because that will cost more money? How will we get to that point first? What you're saying is that there will be no money spent after that on the impact assessment or anything else, but at the same time, we're still going to do this, ask the community what we're doing. So
part of the budget that we've made up to 30,000 is to go through the process of consultation as well. So I would suggest that we continue to consult with the community. The responses that we've had have not, but there are nearly 9,000 people in this community. We have not received a response from a large number of those people. We need to get this information out to our community, correct information about it, out to the community, listen to their concerns and have a better understanding of what the community actually want, whether they're supportive, don't care or dead against it. What I would say is that this council will listen to the community and do what the community want.
Yeah. Are we ready to move to vote? Councillor Osborne?
So the thing that for me that came out of some of the meetings that have taken place was just how poorly this council communicates, because some of the things that people were saying were just mad. Right? They were just like, I don't know where they'd got some of the information from, but it was just, you know, and the idea that the council had forced this through and all the rest of it. And I think it is something that we should look at, is how we communicate with the community.
We're having this.
So we have a proposal. Seconder.
So I just want to say that in the community plan that we've been doing, we sent out a questionnaire and asked people how they would like to be communicated. You know, because it is something that should be addressed, and that will emerge from the community plan, how we change the way we communicate with the public.
So we have a proposer and a seconder. Councillor Cousins and Henderson, are we happy to move to vote? Yes. All those in favour of the new advisory committee working group? All those against? All those abstaining? One against. Okay.
I think the
Do we want to choose the members of it now?
Carry on as it is at the moment.
No, Your Worship, I'll bring a.
Okay.
I'll work with Councillor Cousins to put together a draft terms of reference that I'll bring to the next meeting. You'll agree them at the next meeting. You'll set your councillor representatives and delegate to that working group to choose within the parameters that are set in the terms of reference who the community representatives are.
So I think we're meant to end our meeting after 2.5 hours, which is now, unless we choose to extend it a little bit.
Well, yeah, just on that, Your Worship, it's 2.5 hours after your meeting began. So we did start late and you only count it after public participation. So actually, you don't need to suspend Standing Order 3X just yet. However, I've written it down to hand to you at the point that I consider you need to suspend that Standing Order. So don't worry about it just yet.
Okay,
but I will...
okay, let's keep going. The neighbourhood plan open day?
Whatever lack of communication, Your Worship, seemed to go wrong with our consultation day to connected World Heritage status and the misinformation and erroneous assumptions that came out of it, the neighbourhood plan consultation day was an absolute success.
Yeah.
We had over 100 people turn up. There was lots of genuine interest in the various policies that this council has been working on for many years now, I can say, and there was general supportive feeling about nearly all of the neighbourhood plan's vision and aims. The only thing that caused any upset was the final line on the vision, which said that in 40 years' time, this council will have achieved...
In 2040.
In 2040. Thank you for correcting me. In 2040, this council will have achieved World Heritage status. That the consultants feel is probably the line that we should lose. Therefore, alleviating a lot of concerns. But it was a very good opportunity that day to listen to some of the people's concerns about World Heritage status and indeed dispel some of the myths.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yep. Moving on, Unitary Councillor reports.
Okay, I'll keep this quick.
Good.
Fabulous.
No offence.
Right, well, quick, I'll do bullet points. First is that we had the planning meeting I chaired for Glastonbury for the down at the bottom, up in Stock Farm, Cullen Road, which it was nice to see Lindsay there and Mike there were able. The one thing that was a bit unfortunate was that we hadn't booked in, or the town council hadn't booked in by the Thursday before, which is when you need to book in by. Lindsay, you're going to say something.
I've asked the clerk to put Somerset East Planning Board in the subject heading, and I think we might actually notice.
It'll be done now in future.
I've also asked the clerk to, in the event of a member of staff being on leave, for the emails, certainly the important emails, to be covered by another member of staff, because that's how it happened.
That's great, because it was a unfortunate oversight, and it would have looked very bad if I'd allowed my own town council to speak. But anyway, as a result of the debate that we had, it's been deferred. So, which is possibly a good thing. So we'll wait and see. So next time, yes, would like to come back again, Lindsay?
Well, it's been deferred for to consider the special landscape feature of the tour.
Yeah.
So the sooner we get discussions further on with our neighbourhood plan and our World Heritage Site status, that will help. So that's for everybody to know.
Okay, can I say something?
Okay, Mike, yeah.
And as Nick said, it's been deferred, but the feeling in the room, the committee really wanted to refuse this application, as they wanted to refuse the previous application at Bodley. But because of the overhanging threat of the appeal and costs, they very, very reluctant to do this.
Yeah. That is a problem that's hanging over, so you all understand that. That is a problem that is hanging over all planning decisions now, and we're waiting with the new government that have come in. We're liable to see a different approach to planning, which I don't know at the moment. Nobody's come, we haven't heard anything yet, so that's going to be something to worry about. Steve.
Thanks. When I was on the planning board at Mendip, we had Damon Hooton as our chair, and we were always told, don't let the possibility of appeal sway your decision. So I know it's a real possibility, and you've got to be wary of possible costs, but it shouldn't make your decision.
I totally agree, and I've had a couple of meetings since Tuesday where I have made this clear, and I've also spoken to a parish chair where he sort of hinted maybe a little bit that it does come across that now the officers are far more risk adverse than they've ever been in the past towards money. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, you can understand why, but it's
yeah, but it's definitely a significant factor going forward. Whatever anybody says, that goes into people's minds.
Bullet points.
Okay, sorry. All right,
please. Thank you.
I know, but people were interested.
They were interested.
Right, another bullet point is I attended the drainage board meeting with John there. I've got a bug in my thing about one place in Glastonbury, which I'm keeping on about, and I'm not going to let them get away with it, because they keep saying that a pillar that was knocked over by a contractor is not their responsibility, and the council says it is. And then they told me they were going to send me information to show that the council would accept the responsibility. No information has appeared, so I shall be going back again on that one. And then another quick one, just to add down on the end, is I've been appointed to the Rivers Board Authority as well.
All right.
So that would be quite interesting. That would probably please Serena, maybe. Okay, right. Cheers then.
Congratulations, someone told me at the Resilience Day.
Told you already. Yes.
Any questions to Councillor Cottle? No?
We can write questions, can't we?
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll continue moving on. Any updates from lead councillors or representatives to outside bodies?
John?
Councillor Cousins?
Yes, thank you. John Cousins, yes.
Councillor John.
As Councillor Cottle said, I also attended the Drainage Board, Axonbrew Internal Drainage Board meeting. I do need to highlight to this council something that is very disturbing in relation to this, is that the Environment Agency, which is key to dredging the main rivers, it has insufficient funds from government to do all the maintenance required. So whilst the drainage boards are very good at keeping all the reams clean and getting the water ready to go into the rivers, we have a problem with the rivers already being blocked. So this can only be an issue that is going to literally come back upstream towards us. And I think that we need to be conscious of that. I'm saying this in relation to the parish council group that's trying to be formed to look at ways that parishes could help with this. And I would suggest that this becomes an issue for every parish in Somerset, because we only have to look at what's been happening in Spain to see the issue that can arise when there's inadequate drainage, etc. So what I would say is that to try and alleviate this, the internal drainage boards offered to lend the money required by the Environment Agency to them, and that was rejected because of some obscure legal reason why that was rejected. So this is quite an issue that we need to keep an eye on. Thank you very much.
And John?
John, Councillor.
Can I ask Councillor Cousins, will the mill stream be dredged at all this year? Because in previous years it has been, and it's not been done at all this year.
Do you mean by the Axonbrew Internal Drainage Board, or do you mean by the Environment Agency?
I don't know who does it.
So what I would say is that the drainage boards, understanding the issue with not draining the more main rivers, have taken on at their expense certain parts of the rivers network that they will work on to try and to alleviate the places that are most critically at risk. Whether or not the mill stream is part of that, I don't know.
Why is the Environment Agency? Because it's all contracted out anyway.
Councillor White?
Well, that's for you, Tony.
Two things. I'll do Town Deal in a moment. Just to reply to Councillor Cousins and Councillor Cottle, I went to the Resilience Day at Bridgewater last Wednesday. It was Environment Agency, Somerset Rivers Authority, Internal Drainage Board, various other people. So what I thought to do was, on the next Resilience 2030 meeting, put what happened on that Resilience Day on the agenda, and all of this stuff with like drainage, rivers, should we dredge or not dredge, all of that. So I think that could all sort of fit in that committee quite nicely. Yeah, I'll liaise with Connor and Melissa on that. Town Deal, as you probably know, if you go past Tor Leisure, that is going at a great rate. So they're doing all of the back landscaping at the moment. The Abbey here, the scaffolding came down a week ago Thursday in this bit. They're still sort of working inside there. So that one is progressing. You'll probably have seen the power cable that's been coming across the car park. So it's just joining the two ends, one into Dunstan House, one into the substation over there. One of the interesting things, as Town Clerk said, we went and had a look inside Dunstan House, and I haven't been in there for about 4 months. And we spent about 90 minutes. It was really, really interesting. Up in the roof, had a look at this, understood the problem of all the roof trusses and things like that. A lot of the tiles have gone back on. issues with some of the timbers. Some things were worse than we thought. Then afterwards, we went to the changing places toilet there. That's a very, very big space. And then we were here with our architect as well. So we were looking at how does the atrium actually fit in this space here? When's that going to happen? So one of the things I've just sort of flag up for people is in January, they will be doing work in the main hall. So there's doorways being knocked through that side wall, which will then be inside the atrium. And so the two Sarahs have cancelled all bookings for the main hall in January. Any questions on that, or we can talk at other times?
It's really fine. It's just there are 9 other projects.
Yes.
If there's any kind of update with any of those, I know we haven't got much time.
Okay, we've got a town deal board meeting next week on the 22nd. So the following one, I will have more information on everything in December, and I'd like to get some sort of photos from inside Tor Leisure as well. But the farm is going okay. They're sort of preparing tree planting areas. They've built a little tree nursery with a deer-proof fence, so that's all working okay. They're pretty certain where all the wet patches are. They're going to try and work with that. And then also they've had some biodiversity surveys, so like Rome, the Recorders of Avalon Marshes people, so they've done some things with that. So there's a lot that is sort of going on behind the scenes.
Good, really good.
Any other updates from outside bodies? No. Okay, we're on to Mayor's announcements. Yeah. So it has been quite a busy month. Probably the highlight, I have to say this, was going to Manchester with Connor and Katie and Sarah for to Old Trafford. I'd never been to a football stadium before. I was very excited. I was hoping to see the pitch, but it turned out the pitch was covered in garlic. Weird, but true. Myself and Connor tried every door. They were all locked, covered in garlic and being irradiated with ultraviolet light. Wow. So we were ever so close, but we were able to scoop gold at the Britain in Bloom Awards. And there is Connor and Sarah collecting their gold awards. Coming back to Glastonbury, we had Glastonbury in Bloom Awards, for which Sarah sadly caught COVID, but Margaret was able to give out all the awards. Really nice evening, actually. So many happy people. They must have been expecting to get something, but they were so happy and pleased to get their awards. And the town hall just looks really nice when it's all decorated.
Yeah.
Yes, so that was Glastonbury Bloom. Round about the same time was the Unity event organised by the Pilgrim Reception Centre in the assembly rooms. Quite quirky, but all sorts of people there, including the Glastonbury Unicorns, which seems to be a kind of one-woman event. But you got everybody singing, and they were really happy with it. And next year, well, last year it was a 1-day event. This year was a 2-day event. Next year it's going to be a 9-day event. Whoa. It's going to be in early May next year, and they have so many ideas for, unity in Glastonbury, spiritual unity. I've been doing a bit of interfaith work. I'd like to do a fuller report on it next month. But one thing I've started is a weekly programme on Glastonbury FM, or now called GWS, Glastonbury Weldon Street Radio. So we interviewed Father Kieran. Here's Father Kieran in the GWS Glastonbury FM studio. We've done about 10 interviews. Another one we did was somebody you probably don't know called Dandelion.
Oh, yeah.
Dandelion?
Yeah.
That's Dandelion, who's a fairy shaman, runs a little shop in St John's.
In the walkway, just beside the church. Going to
the thing. Surprisingly intellectual, actually. Doesn't look intellectual, but he's done, he's done degrees and everything. Something completely different I did was I was invited by Strode College to attend their graduation ceremony. They'd obviously made a real effort to make a real fuss of their graduates. They'd hired Wells Cathedral, and that's Chloe, who runs the Glastonbury Mental Health Network, which is my mayor's charity, collecting her award for counselling qualification. So really nice to go there and support them and just be part of, just make a fuss of all the Strode graduates.
Yeah, quite right.
Coming a bit more up to date was Remembrance Day. I think Michael and I did 4 different events, all about Remembrance and Armistice Day, Glastonbury and Wells. I went to Wells as well, not Wells, Street as well. So people love coming to Glastonbury. That's our MP, Sarah Dyke, and the Lord Lieutenant, Mohammed Sadiq. I think they're coming back to Frost Fair or the
Christmas lights in
yeah.
turn of the Christmas lights on.
Anyway, they'll be back quite soon. Anyway, very positive again, but a serious occasion, you know. We also had the dragons, Glastonbury dragons. There they are, the red and the white dragons fighting. The white dragon won, which proves that winter is coming. One other thing I did, you may have seen, was attend the launch of the Sacred Death Centre, a whole new initiative in Glastonbury, just helping people die well. This is their poster, photographed through a rainy window, so excuse the blur. But obviously a big event in Glastonbury. St Ben's Church was packed, absolutely packed with people here for the event. Yeah. We've talked about our open days, World Heritage and Neighbourhood Plan Open Day. And the last thing, 2 more things. I went to the Repair Cafe's 3rd birthday, nice little event. And coming up on the 20th of November, in a week or so, the Christmas tree goes up. And then there's about 9 days between the Christmas tree going up and Frost Fair. But during that time, we've invited local school children to come and decorate the Christmas tree with us. We've always had lights. We've never had, you know, community participation to decorate it. There may be up to 1,000 children literally visiting the Christmas tree to decorate it in that period between the tree and Frost Fair. So I'll be there with Michael, all dressed up as Mayor, come Father Christmas, you know, welcoming lots and lots of groups of
whatever, you know.
Lots of groups of, anyway, it's Kathy, really positive response from the school kids. They've all got wooden stars that they've been painting one by one to hang on the tree. So that's coming up soon.
Yeah.
And that's it, I think. Next month, I won't be here at the beginning because it's the annual ritual of the Forget-Me-Not dinner, which I'm sure some of us have been to, and I'll be there next month. So that is the end of the Mayor's announcements. Yeah, thank you. Oh, Councillor Napper.
Thank you, Worship. On the subject of the 11th of the 11th, yesterday I attended the Moorlands Memorial down at the Roman Way, and I believe, forgive me, I believe she's the curate that took the service, and she tells me that she is leaving after so many years now. I just wonder whether we could allow to send her a bouquet or something when she leaves. But she tells me that she's been here for about 30 odd years. Anyway, if we could do that, possibly. Thank you.
I suspect there were 2 separate visits to that memorial because I was there with Connor and Councillor Michael and didn't meet your curate. So maybe you went there separately after us.
So do you know the time and place of that?
Yeah.
Could you inform me the time and place?
Yeah.
Please.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry. We went. There was a lady and Mike Free, the British Legion guy.
That was his wife.
And Connor. So that one just across the road from Redrick. Yesterday.
Yesterday.
What day did you go?
12 o'clock yesterday.
We went just before.
You would have been there for 11 o'clock, wouldn't you?
No, we were here at 11. Oh, yeah. Then we went to street.
Anyway, it sounds like you got there just after us.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're very happy to find her address and send a bouquet or something.
Well, we had
she was there last year.
Trumpet voluntary thing, and all that was done. So, like I say, that was at 12 o'clock, which I was told was going to happen. Clark's was at 11 o'clock, and Moorlands was 12 o'clock.
So we did the War Memorial here at 11 o'clock. Then we scooted down to Moorlands, maybe 11:30.
Quarter to 12, yeah.
You should have seen our wreath.
You were on about yesterday, aren't you?
Yeah. Anyway.
Can we move on?
Anyway, let's move on, yeah. Thank you. John?
Worship, just very quickly, I think that this council should give a vote of thanks and congratulations to Margaret and the Glastonbury and Bloom Committee and Sarah Marks for all the amazing stuff that they've done for this.
I meant to mention the portfolio for our exhibit of Glastonbury and Bloom, produced by Connor and others. It's a work of art and deserved to win high awards at Glastonbury and South Western Britain in Bloom.
Fantastic.
This is here if you'd like to see.
Really good.
So can we move on? We've got one more thing to do.
Okay.
Correspondence, communications and announcements.
I haven't had any correspondence.
Can I just say something?
Councillor Oakton, thank you.
Really, thank you, John. That was very kind of you to say
Yes,
that.
thank you.
We did do really quite well with Glastonbury and Bloom. We actually became champion of champions, and that means we're the best.
Yeah.
We're the best in the southwest. For such a small town as Glastonbury, that's amazing. We also went, as you know, to the Britain in Bloom for the first time. We talked about it. We thought we might just go for the experience, as it was our first year. Then we thought, well, actually, wouldn't we like to get silver gilt? But sadly, we didn't get silver gilt. We just had to make do with gold. And none of this would have been possible without the enormous input of the town hall staff. None of it. We've got an extraordinary team working at the town hall, and I have to name two people. One of Sarah Marks, and the other is our own clerk, Connor, who has stood by my side and guided everybody through quite a complicated system of work. But we got there in the end. And the only thing I would say is, yes, this is where we are so far, but you ain't seen nothing yet, because now we take on Europe.
I just jump in, Your Worship, and just say thank you very much. But I'll also just mention, so it's on public record, that actually I'd like to extend my thanks to our outside staff, particularly Les, Simon and Nick. So Nick does the vast majority of the planting. Les and Simon do the vast majority, but Nick also helps with the watering, and they get up 3 times a week from June to the end of September at 5 o'clock in the morning to go out and water the plants. And if I had to do that 3 times a week for over half a year, I don't think I would be sat here in this chair. So their contribution, although we in the office do a lot, actually they do a lot on the ground. And I think our success in the last 2 years especially is because we've got a handle of the watering and we're doing it in-house, and Les, Simon and Nick are so committed to it, and they do such a good job. So really, I think a lot of our success actually goes down to their very hard work, and quite often it's overlooked because it happens at 5 o'clock in the morning when we're all still asleep. So I'd just like to put on record to the work that they do.
I did include
Absolutely.
So time really is moving on.
Yes, so
can we, any items for news release?
Yeah.
Can I suspend standing orders for the next?
Suspend standing order 3X, otherwise we go into
3X for the next 5 minutes.
I'd like to propose we do.
Yes. All those in favour?
Aye.
Okay. All those against? Okay.
Yeah.
Passed. So, reviewing actions for the meeting.
Thank you, Worship. Very quickly.
News release.
Any items for news release?
Yeah, that's...
Any items for news release?
Has our Glastonbury and Bloom success gone into
Well, yes.
the news?
Yeah, that's already been picked up by regional media.
Councillor Henderson?
Does Councillor Cousins see any merit in clarifying some of the misconceptions about the World Heritage?
Your Worship, I'm begun to wonder whether the press, who may be still watching us, have ever heard of a thing called facts, or indeed that journalists could actually contact this council if they're writing an in-depth report on the things that we're doing to find out whether what they're saying is truthful or not. Yeah. But there may be merit in us releasing a press release about where we're at with our exploration of World Heritage status.
Great.
Yeah.
So, items from the meeting?
Thank you, Your Worship. So I'm going to continue with asset and service devolution in conjunction with the committee, but also finance and general purposes. Thank you very much for agreeing to those recommendations this evening. The two motions, the actions that go alongside with those have been noted. Councillors, you're going to meet and bring back a response to the division boundaries for Somerset consultation at the next meeting. I'm going to circulate the information about committees and the calendar of meetings and provide printed copies in the GIC for you to pick up, and we'll hand them out at the next meeting. The recommendations that were agreed to from advisory committees, the operational impact of those will be followed through, and that is it so far, Your Worship.
So we do have one final thing, which has to be in a closed session. So are we happy to pass a motion, blah, 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 to exclude the press and public for the confidential nature of the final?
Your Worship, I'm happy to propose blah, blah, blah.
All those in favour? All those in favour? Yes.
Do we need to turn off the live streaming?
Unanimous.
Well,
We don't need to turn off the lights, but I'm going to end the stream.
And Connor, do you want to...